question for you.
Yeah.
What type of CFO do you think you are? And what like differentiates you from maybe more of the traditional CFO that we think of?
Wow, that's a good question. I guess really, I want to learn about kind of the problem that the department that I'm potentially kind of signing off on contract on. I want to know what is the problem, what's at the heart of it. How does the potential vendors see themselves filling the solution and the gap that we have? But maybe most importantly is like, are they good people? Like, is this a company that I'm willing to trust, and one that, like, at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be the one signing the contract. So yeah, the buyer is going to be responsible for it, but I'm putting my name on it as well. So this is a company that I can trust that they're going to be there when we need to file a support ticket at 11 o'clock at night and they're going to resolve something. Are they good people that I know that we can have fair, honest conversations about renewals? So for me, really, it's the relationship side of things, which is probably the most important part for me as a CFO, which is maybe a little bit unique from other CFOs.
Anna, I think you'll agree that it kind of feels like the CFO persona cares more about what happens after the sale than what's happening during the sales cycle, which I think salespeople get really confused about when they start talking to them.
Yep, absolutely. This made me think of when we were chatting, Dwayne. I remember you specifically asked me, how do you get comped? And something that's really unique at TripActions is we are beyond, like, we actually need the account to stay healthy. And so something that's really, really interesting for sales folks being from both sides, whether it's like a consumption model, when you think of like an AWS, a Snowflake type of thing, or if it's, contract signed and obviously things come out from the contract. But the reason CFOs obviously care more about the partnership and what's going to happen is because, like Dwayne said, they're putting their name on the line. They're also giving their business and putting it in the hands of another company to help with specific objectives and goals that they've told us about. So they want to make sure that they can quantify and actually succeed at meeting those expectations with the whole kind of point of the partnership up front.
Yeah, totally. And I appreciate the fact that, like, you're going to be comped on the retention side of things. Like, I think that's important, that, like, we're in a relationship together, and there's got to be something behind that and after the initial deal. I think the other kind of key point for me really on CFOs, like, I understand that, like, they're just people. They're just dads and mothers and nieces and nephews and just like you, and they go camping, they go fishing, they do all those things that you do as a salesperson. So if you're a BDR and this maybe is your first real job or your second real job or a junior AE, like, understand, like, the CFO is just the guy that you're gonna meet at the pizza shop 2 days from now, type of thing. So don't be intimidated. Like, and also CFOs, like, don't be intimidating. Like, this is new for a lot of people in sales, and they want to have they're trying to build the confidence they have, and just, like, treat people like humans. It's kind of simple, but not everyone kind of does it all the time.
So when you think about it, and even to what Dwayne said, they're typically the ones that are going to be signing the contract at the end of the day, which means that their name is going on the dotted line. They also, yeah, exactly. And they also are the ones that oversee the financial aspects of a company, which, when you think about that, is the heart of a company continuing to beat and move forward. So they have to be skeptical in order to do their job the best that they can. And the reason they're skeptical too is because they have to challenge whoever from their team or whoever from, maybe it's the sales side and you go directly to the CFO. Or Dwayne, when you and I spoke, I believe I went directly to you and we started the conversation. But they have to think of all of those questions that might not be asked. They have to push and challenge to make sure that they understand all sides of the coin, so that they know at the end of the day, they are making the decision that does, go in the best interest of the company. And once you get through that skepticism, then they can become your biggest champion and, be the ones that actually are the executive sponsor and advocating for whatever it is that you're talking and you're partnering with them on. I think it depends on the size of the company and how, like, if you're trying to prospect into a multi-thousand person company, you're probably not going to start with the CFO. You also probably shouldn't want to start with the CFO because you need to do your due diligence and, build your business case before you have that kind of last, as we would say, like, go, no go call. When you do start with the CFO, you need to have a very good reason to start with the CFO. So if you have that without needing to speak to the rest of the team or other folks to gather some information, then great, go for it. But to Dwayne's point, if you just want to send a generic email that you're also sending to 400 other people in your whatchamacallit thing that I can't think of the name of, then why would they ever entertain a conversation with you? And what does that do to help you down the road when you hopefully do get a conversation, if they even remember that email?
I think one of them to me is not allowing me to control some of the conversation. I have limited time, and there's certain things that I need to get off my list. Like, as much as you need to get certain things done on a call, I need to get certain things done on a call too. And you're selling to me, so you got to let me kind of have a little bit of control. And I'm not asking you to necessarily go way off script, and I don't want to get a demo on the first call, anything like that. But you got to be able to be flexible and be able to move around your deck. Yeah, for example, like something really simple. Don't be so structured that you have to go through and don't necessarily, like, if someone says, "Oh, I'll get to that," I'm okay with them saying that once. But if they say, like, I'll get to that constantly, you're going to lose my interest really fast. I think something like being not being authentic about, like, oh, I've done this research and your business is growing so fast. Like, okay, like, tell me you actually did some research. Like, tell me that you did. You knew that we opened up a San Francisco office, or you knew that you did something. Like, come with something
relevant
that's actual
trigger,
factual,
right?
Relevant trigger. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's only really relevant. And I think the other one is just I don't know, someone that's not being kind of respectful. A lot of the times with the expense software, for example, and with TripActions on the travel booking solution, I had members of my team on that call. And if you're being respectful to me only because I'm the CFO, but you are ignoring the questions and points that my team is making up, like, forget about it. Like, I'm out.
This guy's not even talking to us, right?
yeah. Like, and the truth is, they're the ones who are probably going to make the real decision. Like, it isn't probably me. They're going to make the real decision. And if I see you not being respectful to them and just trying to kiss my butt during a call, like, I'm out again. So again, everyone on that call is important.
Let's talk about some critical questions to ask. Dwayne, you've got 3 questions here. Let's break them down for everybody so they can understand why they're valuable for CFOs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first one, any reason why we can't close this deal? Like again, have a relationship with the CFO. If you're at that stage and you're at the type of organization where you can have that relationship, like call it out. Like, hey, I want to get this deal done. Can we actually get it done? And the CFO, more likely than not, is going to be honest and say, yeah, you know what, we can get this done. Or, you know what, it's not. I got these other 2 things going on. Call me in a week from now and we'll figure it out. Like, again, and CFOs wants to get the deal done. Like, the CFO is being put on to the buying committee at a certain point because they need to find a solution to whatever the problem is. And it may be your solution or maybe someone else's. But if the CFO says, like, you got to give me 2 weeks, like, give that person 2 weeks. Like, there's nothing worse than someone, like, continuing to, like, just badger every 2 or 3 days. Secondly, what's coming up more and more in the last 2 to 3 years, InfoSec. Like, sales teams, you have to be on top of InfoSec and security. If there's any data, be it PII or not, any data that's getting moved around, it's going to involve security, and it's going to be pretty deep. And more, depending on the size of your company, like, your company should have a SOC 2 Type 2 audit being done and have the audit report available in your pen tests. Make sure you have access to all those documents, because security can drag a deal so materially that it's painful for everyone. It's not painful just for you as a seller. It's painful on the buying committee as well, because they have a project they need to get done and they have a timeline, and then security is going to be kind of stuck. And I think that the third one, it's a small one, but it's important to the CFO, is like, make sure you understand, like, who the buying entity actually is. We're dealing with enterprise mid-market companies that have organizations around the world, and the CFO is the one who has to deal with the corporate and sales tax and the VAT tax and everything. Get ahead of it early, that there's going to be multiple different versions of an MSA or SaaS agreement, DPA could be different. The order form could be different depending on what the legal entity is that is engaging. So like sales team, like get in front of your buying committee and make sure they understand like who is the actual buying entity, where are they located, because there could be 10 to 15 different documents that need to be changed over because you have the wrong buying entity. And that is just such a frustrating thing to have happen when you're 95% of the way through, and then everyone's got to go and redline docs all over again.
Yeah, we kind of got a good combo going in the chat right now. Y'all need to get in on the InfoSec knowledge now, because it's going to become a standard very soon. Anna, what do you have to say about the questions that you submitted for everybody on questions they should ask a CFO?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. So the first one, in terms of like trying to figure out how they typically run evaluations, it's always really important to understand what they've recently evaluated and the steps that were involved in that. What went well, what didn't go well, did they go through InfoSec? Was that not something they went through? If not, why? The second one, I know I wrote like, are you able to sign by when you're trying to lock them to a date? Obviously have some sort of critical event that you want to base it off of so that you can work backwards to that signature date so they can, meet the goal of that critical date. But the other thing that I would add too, that's really, really important in just the shifting world that we're living in, what's important to the business right now? What are those 3 initiatives that's coming from your board, your CEO, your CFO, that your team and the entire company is focused on? And how then as a seller, can we relay and relate our product and our services to those initiatives so it becomes relevant and a priority?
I love those questions too, because they're relevant to the role and they're relevant to the organization as a whole. So they really keep the deal on track is the point of those questions, right?
Yep.
The question that I had was, what's the standard payment time frame? And the reason for that is because normally your buyer will say, I got to create a PO. So they create a PO and then they say, well, if you could create an invoice, make sure you note that there's a PO. And then it goes into the ethos or the stratosphere, the internet world. And you're like, what happened? Right. So when you say like, what's the time frame when you're going to actually pay this invoice, you can get a time frame there. So I like that question. And then the other one that I had was, can I reach out to you directly? I am historically noted for asking people, is this your cell? Can I save this number and call you? No one says no to me, y'all. No one. And if you can get their cell, it's a direct line to the CFO. You can text. That's like a green light to be like, talk to me. We want to communicate. So we've talked a lot about personal relationships. That's a good tactic to build that personal relationship. So let's figure it out. Do you feel you have a personal relationship with your customers? It's a simple yes or no, nothing crazy.